Welcome to the Humanstein 500 subscriber Q&A extravaganza. Welcome to the Humanstein 600 subscriber Q&A extravaganza. Welcome to the Humanstein 700 subscriber Q&A extravaganza. There's quite a few of you now, so welcome. I'm kind of overwhelmed by the amount of support and interest the channel has gotten this year, and I want to personally thank each of you for checking out the channel and bearing with me as I work out the kinks in both my setup and my formatting. Your boy went viral again. This time it wasn't even for a joke, but hey, that's where like 200 more of you came from. So if you're a new subscriber, welcome. To all my returning subscribers, welcome back. Did you do something different with your hair? I really like it. You look great. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and do so now so that you can get your very own special greeting next time, because my subscribers are worth it, baby. Getting to know you. Our first question comes for Time for Pick Inc., who asks, why the name Humanstein? Humanstein comes from Frankenstein, surprise, surprise, which I had and have a bit of a fixation on, and it sprung up as nickname due to my last name being Steinmetz. My best friend in high school coined it, and it just kind of stuck ever since. I started using it as an online username in about 2008 when another guy named Nathan Steinmetz wanted my original Twitter handle at Nathan Steinmetz. It worked out because Humanstein was available basically everywhere because it's nonsense. I do have sort of a feud going with the Healthy Humanstein water bottle company though. Now I'm winning because there's only one result on the first page of Google for the water bottle when you search Humanstein. Used to be a lot more water bottle coverage on that page, but now it's pretty much all me. Our next question comes from N Gaming and was also echoed by YouTube user Ian. My question is, what motivates you to contextualize everything? And this is a great question. I've always personally subscribed to the jack of all trades, master of none, better than a master of one school of thought, and kind of pride myself on being something of a generalist. This is very bad for YouTube, by the way. The number one advice is always to niche down, niche down, niche down, find your audience by being specific. But I kind of just refuse to do that. I've got a passion for lots of different subjects, and I want to be able to feel free to research and share information across a wide-ranging variety of subjects. I'm big on history. I'm big on politics. I'm also big on current events, folklore, philosophy. I'm obsessed with pop culture, movies, television, and art, ranging from the most quote-unquote highbrow to the quote-unquote lowbrow. And I'm especially fascinated by the intersection of all of those things. And I love sharing what I've researched about them with, other people. There's an ever-growing problem with how we, the public, engage with those topics that's kind of exacerbated by the current speed of information and therefore misinformation, recency bias, and also a general shortness of memory. And the quickening of the news cycle means that there's often barely enough time to get the details on a story or a trending fun fact before the cultural conversation has already shifted elsewhere. As a result, you see nuance and context in short supply, whether we're talking about politics or movies. And I just really think it's essential to be able to place new information, new art, and new ideas in their proper context. That could be the unifying theory for the channel and the angle that would let me make the kind of content that I want to make. Contextualize everything. Whether that means contextualizing a piece of media by discussing the real world events and ideas it contains and responds to, or examining our world through the context of art and pop culture, breaking down current events and news stories, or even learning the hidden and often fascinating histories of things that might otherwise go unexamined. Put another way, I want an audience of curious people that want to learn about lots of different things with an emphasis on media and heady ideas. Maybe that'll bite me in the ass eventually, and I'll never find my audience, but I suspect it's not a universal truth, and we'll see. I've got faith in you. Kind May asks, if you were to go back to your childhood, What is one thing you'd do differently? The main thing that I would try to do differently is hold on to the kindness and compassion that I felt in my childhood a bit longer. I was something of a kind of sullen, angry teenager, and I spent a good chunk of my 20s being really bitter and very resentful. And I look at that now and I cringe. The most important thing in the world to me is to be kind and to be considerate of others. I think I'd make a point to emphasize that in my life from a younger age if I could. I do suspect that if I wasn't that bitter, resentful, and angry young person in the middle there, that I probably would have ended up a different person entirely, but I also might have hurt fewer people along the way. So it's a toss-up. Also, I'd buy Bitcoin. Losin asks, are you single, married? I have been happily married to my beautiful wife for coming up on 4 years now. We've been together since 2013, and we also have a kiddo. We also have 2 cats named Dr. Gaius Baltar and Lucy. Mrs. E inquires, what is your secret to having a beautiful beard, and when was the last time you cut it? First off, thank you. I'll say that most of the comments that I've gotten on my physical appearance so far have mostly rotated around the fact that I look like Rolf the dog from the Muppets or PS1 Hagrid, so it's nice to get one that isn't quite as loaded. When I wash my hair, I also wash my beard with a sulfate-free shampoo and follow that up with a beard conditioner, and it gets washed with water whenever I shower. Though, so my daily routine also involves applying a moisturizing cream or a beard oil to keep it healthy. I tend to use Beard Brand or Cremo. And as far as when the last time I cut it is concerned, I gave myself an imperial mustache back in month 2 of quarantine, April of 2020, and then cut it down to just a mustache in October of 2020. You can see my beard coming back in sporadically in the Politics of Star Wars from November of 2020, because I actually filmed that one while I had, over a period of weeks. And so my beard is, multiple different lengths. By the time I got to the Jedi segment, I have a full beard again. But in the beginning, it's basically stubble. I honestly tend to change my facial hair every few months because otherwise I'd get bored. I have done the yeared in the past, but I've been growing it out since then, and I'll probably keep it around this length because I think it's a pretty flattering length. MJ, on a similarly hirsute wavelength as Mrs. E, asks, how long did it take you to grow your hair to this length? I shaved my head back in August of 2018, and I looked very aggressive, bald, as you can see here. And after it grew back and I had a normal head of hair again, I decided to keep letting it grow that fall and not cut my hair beyond split ends since. So it was a pre-quarantine decision that quarantine just made a lot easier. It's finally starting to behave the way I want as well, which is nice. Christine asks, do you still have your childhood teddy bear? I am a very sentimental guy, but alas, I do not have my beloved childhood stuffed animal, which was actually Patch from 101 Dalmatians. Mattel put this doll out in like 1991, I think. I loved him so much and carried him around with me so often that my mom eventually had to repaint the eyes because I would snuggle the paint off the eyes. Veronica writes, what would you change about yourself if you could? Honestly, nothing that I'm not already working on. I'm changing everything all the time. That would be my answer. Gusion Haley asks, perhaps quite generously, what was your job? I've still got a job. I work in digital marketing, particularly in local search engine optimization for brick and mortar retailers. It is exactly as exciting as it sounds. I'm very grateful for the generous work-life balance that this industry has given me, even if explaining what I do at cocktail parties is an absolute bitch. Isel Marks asks, are you into music? If yes, what instruments can you play? I love music, but I haven't ever been taken with one instrument long enough to learn it. My favorite genres are indie, post-punk, and hip-hop, though. Mizzy Tess inquires, what childish thing do you still enjoy? The obvious answer is probably Star Wars, which despite taking up at least 20% of my waking thoughts is unquestionably children's media. The longer answer, though, is like all of it. I still collect toys. I just call them collectibles now. I still regularly unwind with episodes of Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network shows from my youth, and very little makes me happier than a novelty-themed snack. I honestly think it's a mistake to let go of the things that make you happy, provided they aren't holding you back in some way. You know, don't go digging into your nostalgia at the expense of experiencing the world as it continues to unfold, but the childish and less serious things of the world can be great sources of joy and inspiration if you do it right. Friend of the channel, Ben Sapatka, who made this merch mock-up in order to punish me, asks, what sparked your big interest in baseball? Do you watch all of your team's games? It seems like a big commitment and would compete too much with the constant desire to watch more movies as enrichment. I grew up in a baseball town, Arlington, Texas, home of the Texas Rangers. Baseball has always been background radiation in my life, but not something I was particularly actively interested in after my childhood. I went to a lot of games growing up, but it was never really like my thing. That was like Star Wars books. It was just another thing that was fun and one that I practically stopped engaging with by the time that I got to junior high. But you fast forward to June of 2019 when my dad invited me and my family to go see the Rangers play against the Cleveland Indians because he had tickets. My daughter and I ended up going and we had a blast. It was the third game of a 4-game series and the Rangers lost that game, but we did get funnel cake fries, and I got the opportunity to help my daughter enjoy the game, and it was a great time. I decided I'd watch the final game of that series on TV during work the next day, which the Rangers won, and I just kind of fell into it from there. By the time I really noticed, I'd already watched every Rangers game for like a week and started to get really invested. Around that time, I found 90 Feet From Home on YouTube, and her fun, informative approach to getting into baseball was just what I needed to really end up being into baseball. As far as how I watch goes, I try to watch any game I can that doesn't conflict with anything else that I want to do. I reckon I end up catching between like 50 and 75% of Rangers games. It is definitely a time commitment though, to keep up with an MLB team, considering that in a normal year, they literally play 162 games, which is more than 10 times as many games as the average NFL team. But that time commitment is also rewarded with a level of familiarity and a relationship with each of the team's players that I don't think can be matched by any other sport. YouTube. Brandon O'Brien writes, did the pandemic and the accompanying isolation influence your decision to start a YouTube channel? It absolutely did. I had been toying with the idea of making some videos as a way to develop and hone filmmaking skills, but it wasn't until the pandemic came that I started to take the idea seriously. Then as the pandemic got worse and worse over the summer, my job got more and more stressful and more demanding. And then suddenly I was, laid off and I was out of work for 3.5 months. And that gave me the dedicated free time, I needed to make my first real video, the Clowns and Dolls one, and then to tackle the much larger project, the politics of Star Wars. That was a mountain of research and learning, and despite already looking back at the project some 3 months later and seeing significant mistakes I wouldn't make today, I'm really proud of it, and I honestly believe that all that work set me up for success because having tackled that giant project so early on makes literally every subsequent project seem like a cakewalk, and it also gave me something productive to do with myself as quarantine stretched on and continues to stretch on. My house will hit a year in total lockdown on March 11th, and this kind of work has been very rewarding and giving me an avenue of expression that I now realize I desperately needed. Manjula asks, who is your favorite YouTuber? I actually watch a ton of YouTube, and that watching covers a huge gamut of different topics and styles, so I don't think it's really fair to try to pin it down to a single person. In no particular order, Lindsay Ellis, Thought Slime, the team over at Watcher, Shane Madej, Ryan Bergara, Stephen Lim, Philosophy Tube, Quentin Reviews, Sean, Jenny Nicholson, Defunctland, Patrick H. Willems, James Hoffman, Wheezy Waiter, The Vlog Brothers, CGB Cray, Sarah Z, and Trash Theory. Madge asks, if you are given the chance to do a collab after the pandemic, who's a famous YouTuber that you would want to collaborate with and why? All right, this answer probably betrays what I just said a little bit, but the answer is Lindsay Ellis. She's a really significant influence on me, and her ability to tease out the subtleties and connections in art helped shape my own critical voice early on, and it also impacted my sense of humor online, and, I'm sure it's in my style as well. I have no idea what a collaboration between the two of us might look like. But that's my from the hip answer. Kabushbu asks, what's your future target with YouTube? Would being a fabulously wealthy internet person who makes a living having opinions and being mildly funny be nice? Certainly. But even in my wildest dreams about this channel, I'm mostly just thinking it might be cool to have like a Patreon and maybe a couple thousand subscribers here on YouTube. I am thankfully fueled mostly by the work itself, so my YouTube goal is really just to keep refining my style and making my videos better. Alternatively, I would like to go to Disneyland with all the cool YouTubers in LA. John Vincent Nickel asks, what was your favorite video that you uploaded here? The politics of Star Wars. I think that's the tops. That is the thing I poured the most time, the most energy, the most effort into. And I think that's just kind of that's what the channel is that combination of social commentary, political history, media theory, just kind of putting all of those things into a blender and kind of working from there. So the politics of Star Wars. Arnell asks, what are your tips to all the folks who want to make an opinionated video? What pointers should be observed? Just back up what you say. I mean, that's the biggest thing is, if you're making some sort of claim, you should be able to back it up. You should have some sort of, evidence for it. And that's really kind of the guide. You really just want to make sure that you've got some sort of, your topic is sound and your beliefs around that topic are sound. And then just go for it. Farina YTC asks, will you do reaction videos about conspiracy theories in the future? I think I probably will make other videos about conspiracies and misinformation eventually, but you do have to be really careful on that front because those people will dox your ass. So, probably. Hannah Kim asks, do you have a team or are you making videos alone and editing? Just me. I'm a one-man band. I'm learning as I go and am, as of this time, doing everything myself. I think I may have some other folks help with intros, outros, and other animation in the future, though. Sagel asks, rather generously, how much are you earning from YouTube? I am not currently making anything off of YouTube. The requirements for monetization are still pretty far off for the channel, and I wouldn't be surprised if it took until next year to qualify. For perspective, those requirements are 4,000 public watch hours in the last 12 months and at least 1,000 subscribers. Right now, I am at 265 watch hours, or about like a 15th of the way there, and I have 710 subscribers. So go ahead and subscribe now so that I can maybe make a little, something off this. Mental health and current events. Pauline Stiles asks, how do you cope with the depression that quarantine or the pandemic has caused? First things first, I know that my family is in a privileged position because we have the luxury of being in total lockdown. That's not something that's true of everyone, and the issues faced by those who are forced to continue to be in the public are immeasurably worse. But nonetheless, lockdown has been rough in its own ways. Honestly, the thing that has helped me the most is planning things out and working novelty into my day. I'm very lucky that my current job gives me a good bit of flexibility, and I'm finding that the more intentional I am with how my day is laid out and how many things I'm able to incorporate into my day, the better off I am. Almost all the organic novelty in our days was immediately stripped out. Small stuff we didn't even realize was novel and providing us enough change in scenery to feel like our day had some subconscious amount of change just vanished overnight. And most of it won't come back. No commute, no water cooler chatter, no walking down to the smoking section, no popping out with a coworker for a cup of coffee or a joint. So I'm finding baking in little chunks of time, especially random little stuff like I'm going to work on YouTube stuff for an hour, then I'm going to do some yoga, then I'm going to take a shower, then I'm going to read a book for an hour, then I'll cook dinner, then I'm going to watch a movie. That sort of thing has kind of helped immeasurably. I've also been trying to eat better and move more, and that's paying significant dividends as well. June asks, what is your life realization during the pandemic, especially 2020? I was out of work for several months last year, and the flexibility and free time from that time off, as monetarily stressful as all of that was, helped me make a good number of realizations. The first was that I needed to put what matters most to me in front of everything else. That was work and climbing the ladder for a long time. But now that we're above water, I can shift those energies to spending more time on myself and on my family and on personal projects. Work is work, and it can appear and disappear, but the things that are really important won't wait. During my job hunt, I actually turned down a position that would have been just about like twice as much money as the position I ended up taking, but it would have required me to make working the focus of my daily life, and I'm now at a point where that's just not what I want to do anymore. I want to make my silly little videos, and I want to hang out with my family, and I want to see my friends more, and I want to be more intentional with how I spend my time. And, you know, slaving away for 60 hours a week it's not going to get me there. Josel asks, what is the biggest challenge you've faced this pandemic? The easy answer is probably having been out of work for several months, but in reality, I'd say it's the isolation and the routine. Cha asks, how has 2020 affected your 2021 goals? I'm definitely going to make a point of spending more time in the world going forward. So a lot of my 2021 goals are incredibly vague and basic, like spend more time with my friends or go do stuff more. Dane asks, how are you coping with 2021? Honestly, pretty well at this point. Like I said earlier, having a schedule, injecting variety, and trying to keep social and physically active have been essential so far. Coming up on a year in isolation, I think I've just about got it figured out. Kyle asks, which of humanity's many problems do you think is the most critical for us to tackle at this time? I'll let you define what counts as a problem. Well, Kyle, the answer is capitalism. The vector of the problems capitalism presents that's most important for us to deal with right now, though, is, to my mind, global warming. Not much else matters if we're fighting water wars and can't grow food anymore. Media. A-Boy TV asks, do you think that the creators of The Simpsons are some sort of time travelers? No, I do not. They're clearly warlocks, especially Conan O'Brien. Amy Booklove asks, what's your favorite movie? Right now, at this moment, I will say Dazed and Confused. Ask me again tomorrow, and you'll probably get a slightly different answer, though. Boggs asks, what online games are you playing, dude? I'm not much of a gamer, in all honesty. I've been playing a little Star Wars Squadrons and have some plans to start playing Red Dead Redemption 2 online with some friends. But as far as offline games go, I'm playing Yakuza Like a Dragon and Kentucky Route Zero right now. Friend of the channel, Derek Smith asks, can we please really get that 47-minute video about Lorelai Gilmore you joked about on Twitter? Derek is referring to this tweet here, which frankly is probably a pretty decent actual idea for a video. Though upon closer inspection, I think I could probably do it in 25 or 30. So the answer is maybe. I might lock it behind some sort of arbitrary subscriber count as a reward. Jay asks, what's your favorite series about history? It's probably stretching the definition here a little, but I'm going to go with Mad Men. While it certainly doesn't directly retell history, it does shine a pretty fascinating light on a very particular era of Americana and culture. It's also just undeniably one of the greatest television dramas of all time. Longtime friend of the channel, Nick Terry asks, what movie or TV show do you love that might surprise people? Probably Gilmore Girls. Yeah, that's probably the answer. I think my brand is probably strong enough and weird enough that it can kind of contain just about anything, but most people are probably not associating, this particularly angry internet with a show about like upper middle class white ladies, and their relationship worries. But it's a good show. It's a good show. Rafaela asks, what is your favorite genre in terms of films? Crime. It's crime movies. I am an absolute sucker for crime movies. Any kind of crime movie, I am there. I am down. Beyond that, it's probably science fiction, because I think both crime movies and science fiction are probably our best tools to tackle socioeconomic issues in art. Also, I like heists. Friend of the channel, Sydney, asks, what movie, show, or media do you most love to hate? The answer to this used to be superhero movies. I just don't get anything out of them anymore personally, and they dominate the entertainment news cycles, so it's like impossible to ignore them no matter how disinterested in them you are. I actually used to work on a short-lived website called True Superhero Fans Only, which was an Onion-style site made to lampoon superhero news websites. Nowadays, though, I pretty much just tune out what I don't like. I just don't really have the energy. That said, I do get a little tiny bit of sadistic glee dunking on them because it really gets a rise out of people, but I'm not going to yuck anybody's yum about them. And the question that won the giveaway, Wrestling with Film, Paul asks, classifying movies by genre, is it useful or is it fruitless trying to pinpoint what genre a film is? I've sent Wrestling with Film a message via DMs with instructions on how to claim his prize pack, and he should be receiving his $100 in cold hard cash shortly. But now to the question, genre. Is it useful? Yes, I would say genre is a useful tool. It can help us describe what art is doing. It can help us group similar things together and compare and contrast them. It can help us gain insight into what we do and don't like, and that's critical for developing a personal sense of taste in art, whether that's film, television, literature, music, or anything else. That said, it is just one tool, and it's a fairly surface level tool at that. I'm usually much more concerned with the emotional and experiential components of a film than I am with how neatly it fits into one particular genre box. And often the most interesting work exists at the fringes between two disparate genres. It can be handy to have genre as a shorthand to describe patterns that exist between art pieces, as functionally what genre does is allow us to connect art to other art by noting similarities in approach and content. So I would say that genre is useful as a tool, but it's often one of the least important in terms of fully appreciating a given piece of art, which should always be first considered and engaged with as an individual piece of art before we look to further describe and examine the work in its larger cultural context as through genre. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and thank you again for all of these excellent questions. It is so fantastic to get to engage with you guys and to know that people are out there actually, enjoying what I'm doing, and I'm not doing it just in a vacuum for my own edification and for the fun of it. It means the world that you guys, send in all of these questions, that you guys are here, that you guys are watching this content, that you guys are engaging with what I'm doing. Because again, no matter how true it is that I am doing this because I enjoy doing it, it's so much more fun when you guys get involved. That to know that there's people out there that are enjoying what you're putting your time and your effort into, it means the world. And so again, thank you guys so much for subscribing. Thank you guys so much for watching, and see you soon. Humanstein. Contextualize everything.